All right, so for the second part of your paper, you're going to do what is called the theoretical grounding. So in your paper, if you looked, or actually if you looked at the instructions, you'll notice there are these things called headings. So your previous section will be headed, you'll be given the heading case background. And for this section, you're gonna give it a header, and it's gonna be in bold before you start this section, and you're gonna put theoretical grounding. So the purpose of the theoretical grounding is to educate your readers on the communication terminology that you will be using to analyze your own conflict. Okay, so you're building context, you're defining your communication terminology, and you're giving examples of that. So I'm going to walk you through that. All right, so you're going to start with your ethical communication implications. So you're going to identify one of the ethical communication implications. You're going to identify one. Do not use concern for community, because that will not apply to an interpersonal relationship. So that one is off limits. Don't use it. You're going to refer to your ethical implications that are found in the survival guide. So I think it's around the 18, 17 page mark. Just look in the table of contents for ethical implications, and you can find it. It'll be fine. So you're going to pick one of those that best match the conflict moment that you described in your previous section. All right, you're going to define the implication, and you're going to provide an in-text citation. And so I'm going to write, you can, for reference for what an insight or in-text citation, APA style, will look like, you're going to look in the instruction part in this part. So I'm going to write that out for you, what that's going to look like and how it should appear in your paper. All right. And you're going to define it according to what the UALR survival guide says. And then what you're going to do is you're going to provide an example of what that implication looks like in action that is, and here's the important part, that is separate from your case background, separate from your conflict. Okay, so if you pick trustworthiness, right, then you're going to define that, and then you're going to give an example of what trustworthiness looks like that is separate from your story. Okay, just to show me that's how we're using trustworthiness. Okay, then you're going to pick two relevant and meaningful communication concepts. These come from your textbook, right? And those ignore what that says in the instructions about coming through from chapters 5 through 8 in the textbook. That's the old textbook. So you're going to pick two relevant and meaningful communication concepts from our textbook, our current textbook, and that you feel contributed to the conflict in your relationship. So what two concepts contributed to the conflict? Meaning, was it nonverbal communication? For example, was it poor nonverbal communication, right? So that you can explain how that contributed to the conflict, all right? You wanted connected, but let me back up because I just said that wrong. You're going to identify it, define it according to the textbook, and then give me an example of nonverbal communication. Again, separate from your case study, separate from your relationship, separate from the story you just wrote in the previous section, just to give us context, okay? Remember, two communication concepts right here. So you're going to identify one ethical implication from the survival guide, and then two communication concepts from the textbook. All right? And then you're done with this section.